Well, they don't have to be participatory, but I think that being participatory can invite them to be engaged with a larger and more dedicated audience. You know, when we think about the stereotypes people have of museums, it's boring, nothing changes, it's written in a very dry tone, the labels. We think about all the people for whom a museum is not connecting with their life. They may love art or be very connected to personal history or science, but they don't see a museum as a comfortable or interesting place for them to have that experience. And so when we can invite them to participate, when we can say, no, we really do want to talk about how this is part of your life, or we want to know how art or history is something that you're engaged with, when we invite that, we invite them to make a new connection and to have a new expectation of what a museum can be. I think when it comes to opening to participation, it starts with thinking about, how can I listen? How can I not just be an institution that talks at visitors, but what am I genuinely interested in hearing from them, and what could I incorporate from what they have to say? And then I think that leads you to some techniques that really start to be refined around, how do I get good participation? Because we've all experienced places, especially online, where there's lots of participation, but the comments are mean or crazy or not very useful in some way. And so I'm very practical about the fact that we need to design opportunities for the participation to be good. And to me, there are some basic strategies that help with that. One is the strategy of scaffolding, of creating a set of constraints or instructions that help people understand how to participate. You know, it's very stressful if you say to people, tell us anything you want, or make any piece of art you want, because a lot of people, that blank slate is very scary. But if instead you say, how do you react to this piece? Or how could you imagine rearranging this history? You give people a set of tools to work with. Definitely the internet has influenced museums in this way, because I think that we all understand now that online we expect that there will be an opportunity for us to comment and participate and engage. And so right now we look at, you know, an article on a website. If there's no place for you to make a comment, it seems like there's something wrong with that website. And so it changes our perspective on how we are allowed to engage with culture, that it's not just in a textbook fixed. It's something dynamic that's changing and that involves lots of voices. And so even if most of the ways that people have that experience is online, I think it does affect people's expectations in a museum, where they now look at things and say, hey, why is there just this much information? Or why is the information just in this one voice? There's lots of other perspectives here, and I know I could find them somewhere else. Why can't I find them here at this museum too? So the definition of social object I use comes from a Scandinavian sociologist named Yuri Engström. And he talks about the idea that the most successful social networks online are ones in which people are connected by shared objects. So for example, on Flickr, you don't converse with people generally about photography. You have conversations specifically about individual images. And if you think about this in our own lives, there are all kinds of objects we use as the basis for conversation. Online, it might be a status update on Facebook that leads to a conversation. But in person, if you're walking down the street and say you're walking your dog, you'll have conversations with people, and the dog is the object of the conversation. People they look at the dog and they're talking to you, so that dog becomes an object that makes it safe to have that kind of interaction. And so I think similarly in museums, you know, everybody who walks into an art museum has some interest in art, but one person loves painting, another person loves sculpture, one person wants to know about the process, another person wants to know about the ideas. All of those things and all of those images are specific objects that there could be conversations around. I always say that when I go into a library, I love books, but that doesn't mean that everybody else in the library is somebody I want to talk to. But if I know that you liked a particular book that I'm interested in as well, well then that book is a social object that we are going to have a conversation about. And that really connects to this core idea that participation is not just a fun activity for visitors. It's not about giving them something to do, whether that's something fun and silly or whether it's work. It's about inviting them to be part of your work as a cultural professional in a way that will improve what you do. And so to me, participation is not about the activity. It's about what is a goal where we could make a better product, a better experience out of connecting with visitors. That could mean inviting them to be part of exhibit development so that you have an exhibit that reflects more stories and more perspectives. It could mean inviting them to make creative work, which will help you have more liveliness to the exhibit. There are lots of different reasons to do participation, but you have to have a reason to start.